I'm Zunaira Azhar and you're watching Epicenter, where we dissect, analyze and help define major domestic and global stories. Donald Trump has declined another debate with Kamala Harris in the US presidential election, asserting that he emerged victorious in their recent head-to-head debate. However, reports from the fundraisers paint a contrasting picture. They reveal that there has been a surge in the donations for Harris the following day. What lies ahead for both the campaigners in light of these developments? And we'll also look at the increased role of the social media as compared to the traditional media in the upcoming US elections. We have been joined by Dr. Hamid Khan from UK, who is a political analyst. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamid, for joining us. 61 days back, when there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, he survived that, fortunately. That led many to believe that this is going to be electorally his victory and he is going to be untouchable. However, following the debate with the President Biden later and his exit from the presidential race, things emerged differently. Kamala Harris got a very strong convention, surprisingly. And now this recent debate, there seems to have been a complete transformation. How do you reflect on it?
Thank you very much, Zunaira. Definitely, I mean, Kamala Harris have changed the, I would say, the open one-sided election scenario for Donald Trump, and definitely at the moment she's looking very strong, especially after recent debate where she was completely dominating. And first time we have seen that Donald Trump was on a back foot, in terms of his policies, in terms of his plans to be, once he will be elected. So I believe that, I mean, that is the best thing which Democrats did by replacing Kamala Harris with Joe Biden. But I'll tell you, I mean, we cannot be very certain still what would be happening on the day of election in November, because there is a lot to go. There are still two possible debates are going to happen. Secondly, if you look at the Donald Trump's campaign, his campaign is very strong at the moment. He's very confident. Although we have seen some surveys, we have seen some exit polls where they are saying that Kamala Harris is leading now. But if you look at the other perspective, where Republicans are very confident that this is just a startup bubble for Kamala Harris. But as far as the continuity of, I would say, very strong campaign by Donald Trump is concerned, Donald Trump would have a very good chance still. Although we have seen that because of last 3 years what Joe Biden's policies were, and especially this is the first time, Zunaira, that the international relations, the foreign policy has been discussed, and it has become very important. Prior to that, in American elections, I would say that foreign policy did not have that much importance.
It always takes a back seat.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not this
Definitely.
time. Well, let's get back to debate once again. She did a remarkable job this time around. Before that, she was avoiding the media. Let me be very clear here. And the only interview she had was with a very friendly journalist and TV channel. Looking at that, she provoked and poked Trump many times during the debate, but she also didn't come out very openly on the questions by the moderators relating to economy and abortion. And I was really surprised because the moderators did not even push further for an answer. So what is happening to the standards of debates in terms of how the media is regulating it?
Definitely. I was coming to that point that this is not that intense debate which we have seen in past at the time of
There was no audience as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was not that intense debate at the time of Al Gore, or then we remember when Bush was contesting. Then later on, we have seen
even
Joe
Obama.
Biden's, and then Obama. So at that time, the whole American, not only the whole America, the whole world was very much interesting to know what these presidential candidates have for the upcoming elections for the America and for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
This time, there are two problems. One, because Kamala Harris have all of a sudden become the president, the candidate. So she did not have that much preparation in terms of their own, Democrats, voters and Democrats,
Well, let me hold you
leadership as
here.
well.
You raised a very interesting point that Kamala Harris was not ready for this. My question remains that I keep on asking, and I will continue asking this till the elections. She was not a very popular candidate. She was looked at as someone who is in the shadow of Biden. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
Not many people know her personally. What's her personal story? Because that matters when it comes to the presidential election. All of a sudden, as she is centered as a presidential candidate, the polls start supporting her, the media starts supporting her. Doesn't it all look too artificial to you?
Definitely. If you look at Trump's few of his statements, that he has clearly said that I do understand that the whole media is not impartial and they are biased towards Trump. Trump is very clear about his policies, and Trump is very clear his stance that the media, especially the big media houses like CNN and Fox News and other channels, they are not supporting him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so as a print media, whether it is a New York Times, whether it is a Washington Post, so if they are working on building a perception in favor of Kamala Harris, that is the one thing. But the reality is that I keep saying it, that we cannot have a fully judgmental about the results, whatever the polls are saying, because these polls are shown on those media channels where Donald Trump have all the doubts about them, and so as you and so as me.
Yeah.
So I believe that we have to see what the ground reality is. Ground reality is that Donald Trump is very popular. Ground reality is that Donald Trump has a very clear policy in terms of Ukraine-Russia war.
Yeah.
Donald Trump have very clear policy in terms of their health insurance.
Is that the exact threat, that the things are not moving in his direction, in his favor?
Yes, but
the
on
war
the other
industry,
hand,
I mean here.
Yes, Zunaira, it is always the case that Donald Trump likes to go against the wind. We have seen him. He likes to go for the popular politics rather than doing the politics which is
But Dr. Hamid, it's fair. It's only fair to say that nobody wants the war. It's this hand-picked, selective, the mechanical side of the industry that supports the war for the strategic reasons. But at large, American people don't want a war. And this is a popular opinion, yes, but this is a realistic one as well.
Yes, that's why, Zunaira, I always say that the best thing about Donald Trump is he's doing the populist politics. He's doing the politics which has a large support from all representations of the society, whether they are black people, whether they are white supremacists. One thing they all concern is the falling economy of Americans, the mortgage crisis, then the employment crisis, then they look at the health crisis, then they look at the internal crisis. So when they look at that, they all understand that the wars are one of the biggest reasons which
the burden on the economy.
is suffering. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And on the other hand, Trump has very clear policy towards China, towards Mexico border, again towards abortion laws, towards
he has rather, I would say, he has rather gone on the left side, I would say, from the Republicans.
Absolutely.
Because he is ready for IVF, he is ready for reproductive rights, so he has changed, and that too is a popular demand, so he is playing smart. So let's move on to the discussions and polls and medias and debates. Many people believe that no matter how much we rely on the debates and the polls, in the end, it all comes down to the 6 or 7 states. Do you agree to that?
Yes. Definitely. It is always very important to those 6 and 7 swing states.
Yeah.
It's always depending on those. Whether it is California, whether it is other states, this is very important. I always say that in American elections, the electoral system is always questionable. I have raised many questions about the electoral system anyway.
It is very confusing, and for a common man, it is so difficult to understand, I would say.
On top of it, to be honest, as a little bit expert of constitution and democracy, I don't believe it is on a very fair and transparency and democracy basis. So, because there are many discrepancies in its electoral method and electoral system. But anyway, they have to do it according to that. And that's why, I mean, Kamala Harris is very confident that she can she needs just a little bit swing and she may be able to win the election. But at the same time, if you look at the situation, they don't want any repetition of the previous election, what happened, in terms of public protest and other things. So it has to be a clear mandate.
That is why probably they are not that interested in debates and interviews anymore.
Yes.
They are more tilted towards going to those states and connect with the voter directly, and media is not covering that. Let's put it this way. But at the same time, while this traditional media is declining, let me say this, and I say this because a lot of people, a lot of surveys say that people are not relying on the traditional media sources anymore. They are going to social media. The new media reality is emerging this time greatly in the US elections. So what does it say about the giants, tech giants like Elon Musk, for example? So wherever they put their weight, doesn't it simply means that candidate is going to win?
Not 100%, because I'll tell you one thing. Sometimes, personalities like Elon Musk and other personalities, if they put their weight, it could be, I would say, it could be disputed as well. It would be controversial as well. And the problem.
But when it comes to money, nothing is controversial.
That's what I'm saying. When it comes to perception building, let me tell you one thing.
Yeah. So if one media house is responsible for perception building of, let's say, Kamala Harris, that is CNN, then there is Elon Musk. He is openly coming in support of Donald Trump. Then surely it's balancing out. So there is some weight on the tech side, and there is a little weight this side on the traditional media. Do you agree to that?
Yes, definitely. In terms of that, I would say that the weightage of Donald Trump is heavier than the traditional media, whether it is CNN or other media houses. But at the same time, the way I would say the American establishment works, the way election system is, the way Democrats have their controlled states. We have to consider those facts, right? The way they have their governors, the way they're controlling the other states like Texas and others. We have to work out very closely. One thing is very clear, and that is that they have to work very hard, both sides, till the election day. The only reason is that keep saying is that the American public, they change their minds with every debate. Yeah. That's why Kamala Harris, I use the word, she may go for another 2 debates. She may withdraw from any other debates because she will think that she has done very well. Donald Trump will come with much more preparation next time. So it could be, again, she could be on the back foot. So these are the reasons why I believe that in American elections, the perception building does work. Perception building play a lot of role. As you have mentioned, now social media is the biggest tool to have propaganda and perception building. But at the same time, I believe that the common Americans are more concerned towards their local issues. That is the thing which will decide on the day of election, that how Donald Trump comes out with interacting with local public.
While I agree with you completely, Dr. Hamid, that the local issues are at the core of every American election. But let's talk about Michigan. It's a swing state, and it has the largest population of Muslim Americans, let's say. And with this Gaza thing coming along, don't you think that stakes are high this time?
Definitely. We have seen such a big protest in Michigan. We have seen the students and university students came out in Michigan. So, I mean, that's why it is very, I would say, that tough for Democrats to be able to win that very crucial swing state. And if you look at the latest polls, they are clearly showing that they don't want to trust on anything on Democrats, because if they would have done anything to do the ceasefire, I mean, there is nothing much better. Donald Trump has said in favor of Palestine and Gaza as well. But the only thing is, because the Biden have the authority to make the ceasefire possible. The failure of Biden to do the ceasefire,
and some don't even see it as a failure. They consider is it as a complicit attempt to continue with whatever Israel
Absolutely.
wants.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. This is what, because this is the clear ultimate motive that Americans are the one who let Israel do what they are doing, and it's all the genocide is. America is the one who's responsible, whether they admit or they don't admit. That is what every Muslim across the world they know. So as the American Muslims, because they know how Americans are, how powerful America is, and how they can stop this Netanyahu from his madness, what he's doing. So I mean, they are very much in considering to vote for Donald Trump. The only reason is that the failure of Biden. It is not that the Trump policy is something very positive towards Israel or towards issue of Palestine. It is the only reason is that the one failure is giving an advantage to the other party. This is the basic mathematics here.
Right. And I would like to bring your attention to the initial remarks that I made at the beginning of the show, where the fundraisers painted a picture that there is a huge surge in the donations for Kamala Harris, that is for Democrats. And AIPAC, the stats just came out. AIPAC is going big time in investing even more in the Democrats. And I'm sure this is just tip of the iceberg, because they are not going to reveal everything, not their all cards. So with that much of investment in one candidate, do you actually feel that this is a fair election in US?
No, the only reason is that
the amount of money that is pouring in to support the Democrats, it's baffling.
Yes. You know, the reason, the core reason of that is not pushing Israel for the ceasefire. This is where we always have to look into deep that how Jewish lobby works. I mean, where is that all funding coming from? Who's the behind that? How does the Democrats got such a large, hefty amounts of, in terms of funding? Because they want, at any cost, they want to stop Trump now. So this is a very clear thing. That's why in the beginning I said that this is the first election where the foreign policy have become the core issue between the candidates and between the establishment as well, while it had never happened before.
Okay, my last question to you, Dr. Hamid. With the ballot voting already started in various states, it's going to be a long process. There are going to be debates between the vice presidents as well. Is this still a tight race in your opinion?
Yes, definitely. Since the exit of Joe Biden, since Kamala Harris have come into that, it is a very tight marginal competition between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And at the same time, I think the public will be looking very closely to all their policies, all their plans for American and for the people of America and for the rest of the world. And I believe that this is one of a very tough election in American history. And both sides are very confident. But at the same time, it is going to be very crucial, especially as we are saying, the swing states such as Michigan and other states will play a very important role. And there could be some surprises from very large hold states as well. So, I mean, I always say that one or two states can give you surprise as well in terms of supporting the Republicans. So many states went out of the hands of Democrats last time.
Well, that's why they are called swing states. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamid, for joining us. And let's take a short break. Welcome back to Epicenter once again. In a major development globally this week, during the 79th General Assembly session, Palestine has been granted a seat among United Nations member states. The President of the United Nations General Assembly confirmed that all necessary arrangements have been put in place for Palestine to occupy its designated seat. In response, Israel criticized the decision, stating that Assembly's actions are driven by political bias, emphasizing that UN membership and its privileges are intended for sovereign states only. At the same time, In Israel, the largest anti-government protests are taking place, demanding Prime Minister Netanyahu to accept the Gaza ceasefire arrangement, which also includes the release of the hostages. While he continues to refuse any agreement on the ceasefire plan, what could potentially compel him to change his mind or stance? To discuss this from New York, we have been joined by Mr. Malik Nadeem Abed. He is Secretary General and Ambassador at Large, International Human Rights Commission. Thank you so much, Mr. Abed, for joining us. And in Israel, these largest anti-government protests are happening. And let me quote here that a historic number of 750,000 people are on roads. Prime Minister Netanyahu still refuses to accept the Gaza ceasefire agreement, and that includes the release of the hostages. Why is he continuously refusing to this agreement, one? And two, what might compel him to change his mind, in your opinion?
Assalamu alaikum to you and your team and your viewers. Thank you so much for having me in your show.
Thank you.
Zunaira, first of all, let me take you back to our previous conversation in your last show when we discussed about the peace in the Middle East, and I said
you said that the peace is going to come from within Israel, and that is
within Israel.
Exactly what is happening.
And that's exactly what's happening, and very unfortunate that finally people have started realizing, not you and me, we already knew it, but people around the world have started realizing that the hostages issue is only as an scapegoat to start killing innocent civilians in Palestine. So this issue, Netanyahu, or the leading politician and political leadership in Israel, is not even least interested about these hostages. Mm-hmm. This is only an scapegoat to continue killing innocent civilians in Palestine. So I think hostages is not going to make any difference in the negotiations or the bargaining or bringing the peace in the Middle East. The only difference it's going to make is November elections in the United States of America. Other than, other than what we discussed inside the Israeli state. So when it comes to supporting financially and politically from America to Israel, it's not going to make a change whoever wins. Mm-hmm. That's, again, a very unfortunate reality that
and
all
that's
the
politicians... a stated position of both the candidates as well.
Exactly. And that's, as a matter of fact, I'm going to rephrase it with your permission, that it's a hostage situation. The American political leadership is hostage in the hands of Israel. It's a very, very unfortunate thing that some people, I know for sure, I had been very closely in touch with many of the national leaderships. Some of them, they are tired of the situation in Middle East, but they are afraid of speaking up. That's how strong the control of the Jewish lobby and the pro-Israeli lobby is in American politics.
So, Mr. Nadeem, let me interject here. I was discussing before you American elections, and AIPAC has increased the funding 10 times more than it used to. Also, ever since the last debate and the Democratic Convention, Kamala Harris is receiving massive donations, and you know what donations mean. So if they are spending so much on American elections, how do we expect to see any change in Americans' policy towards Israel, the state of Israel, and towards this conflict?
Let me also tell you and add to the discussion for the interest of our viewers. Despite the fact that all the major politicians and both the presidential candidates in America, they are very strongly committed, and that's their stated position that we are not going to back off from the support of Israel. But one thing is for sure, and I'm going to mention this very clearly, that Donald Trump, despite of his support, financial, moral, and political support to Israel, he is one of those people who is absolutely against the wars. And I'm going to make this repeat it again. Donald Trump is absolutely against the wars. The first thing is going to happen. The first thing is going to happen if he wins, and I hope that he wins. Although I'm a party leadership among the party leadership of the Democratic Party. But today, I pray that Donald Trump wins because he is the last hope we have to bring peace in the Middle East outside Israel.
Even for the democracy of the US, let's put it this way.
Absolutely. And that's the reason we also have to mention this. And I was invited by a political forum yesterday to discuss about the presidential election. Although this was not a question, I brought it very strongly into the conversation. I said, what happened to the investigation of the attempted murder,
assassination
of,
attempt on Donald Trump?
Exactly.
There is a radio silence on that, as if nothing ever happened.
And that is, let me tell you, and I'm impressed. I had never been very big, what you call, supporter or admirer of Donald Trump, but last few months, Donald Trump impressed me a lot. After his assassination attempt, he became such a mature political leader. His supporter could have brought, a national turmoil in America after that attempt. But he controlled his supporters. And I think he has come up as a
he has emerged as a taller leader, let's put it this way, even before the elections. And let me put in front of you the declared objectives of the war that Netanyahu is apparently putting across all tables. He says, okay, I'm going to wipe out Hamas, I'm going to bring back the hostages, and I'm going to control Gaza. If he agrees to the ceasefire, it would simply mean that there is going to be celebrations from Hamas, that he failed. No hostages are gone back, there is no control of Gaza either, and the Hamas is still there. Is this a catch-22 position for Netanyahu, or is it more than that?
Let me also take a little bit, again, one step back to make a statement. And it's going to be a very big statement again. And I hope people can digest this honest and true belief of mine. I have a serious doubt about many of the Hamas leadership as well. Hamas was created by Israel. In the beginning of Hamas tenure, Israel gave millions of dollars of donations and contributions to Hamas. Why?
To replace what? PLO?
PLO, yes, and the true leadership of Palestinians. And today, Hamas kidnapped those, just a few hostages.
And there is this whole population blown into bombardment.
Thank you so much, and I hope
so no proportionate war is going on.
Absolutely, and this was the reason provided by Hamas to Israel, and Israel is holding on to that reason to continue this war, unproportionate war, just like you said, unjustified, illegal, immoral war in Palestine.
Till they are in control of complete Gaza and West Bank.
Absolutely. And now
then that brings me to a different question then. We saw that General Assembly has actually granted a seat to the Palestine. Is this a lip service then with the looking into the international global center, UN? Is this a lip service by them?
Again, if you want me to praise United Nations, which is again the last hope of the peace in the world, I can do that. But if you want me to be honest, this is just the misery of the United Nations, that this is the least they could do to give moral support to people of Palestine. Otherwise, honestly speaking, this does not have any
it has no essence, if it has no value, then this is also going to be seen as being complicit in this whole catastrophe.
Absolutely. This is just like a insult over the injury. So
absolutely. Okay. Again, the very interesting factor in front of me, Mr. Nadeem, evacuation orders. Every time I read this word, evacuation orders, coming from Israel to Palestinian people, there have been 18 evacuation orders in 1 month to the population, and that includes the operational activities of UN as well. They were also told to evacuate from there 18 times. But the narrative pacing, the wording and language around this conflict is so complicit as well that evacuation means when you want to save the population from some disaster, from, let's say, a war zone, you want to place them in a more safety zone. This is forced evacuation. You are telling them to leave, and they use the word evacuation. How do you look at that? Do we need to recalibrate the whole media campaign around conflict as well?
I think, again, this word is evacuation. It's not a sympathetic request or advice. This is a warning. You leave or we are going to kill you.
Or you die.
This is very clear. Or you die. This is not the regular standard terminology used around the world of evacuation. This is a warning. Leave or get ready to die. Because now they just want the real estate, the property. That's the problem. And that's the, again, I'm going to step back and bring that topic back. That's the justification is provided by Hamas to Israel. To get 45,000 people killed, hundreds of thousands being injured, millions of homes and properties damaged because Israel want to capture the entire Gaza and West Bank. It's a prime
It's about
property.
territory.
It's about territory, it's about the property, and it's about hundreds of millions and billions of barrels of oil under that property. That's a problem now.
And let's take a short break. Welcome back to Epicenter once again. Is it true that many of the rich politicians in US are already ready to rebuild West Bank and Gaza? They have plans. What are they going to build there? They are this ready to invest over there.
Yes, your question is very valid and very unfortunate that there are two things happening in America. On regular basis, the Israel is hosting the sale of the property in Gaza here, not just on the big, commercial levels, but also on the personal level as well. They are offering the property for sale. They are hosting property sale events of Gaza. And I had been personally involved in the protest, and I had been personally involved in writing the letters to even the elected officials and even to the United Nations, because the stolen property cannot be sold. It's a stolen property. It's owned by the people of Palestine. They have no right to sell it, but they imagine they are so anxious to control that land that without even having the full control of the area, they have already started selling it. This is very unfortunate. Your information is 100% right.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, which brings me to another theory that, well, while General Assembly is stating that Palestine is now a state that has a seat in UN, the very definition of state means territory and people and an ideology. Here, there is no territory. It's just people and their ideology. So how does that define the whole concept of giving them a seat in the United Nations General Assembly?
This is also a very valid and very interesting question, Zunaira. Thank you so much for asking. Just for your viewers' interest and knowledge, let me quickly you explain to them what is the process of becoming a full member or the member state of the United Nations. Once the member state sends a request, it goes to the Security Council. Security Council votes on this request, and out of 15 members, the applicant must have at least 9 votes. In this
including
case,
the P5?
No, including the P5. But it's not just about the minimum 9 votes. Palestine got 12 votes in this case recently, but the only caveat is the second requirement or second condition is that there should not be a negative vote out of any of those 5 P5s. So America gave the vote against it.
Yeah.
So there is no way.
UK abstained.
Exactly. And then another quick fact, since 1998, America used 97 times used the veto power. 49 times against the peace in the Middle East. And I feel
49
embarrassed being
times.
an American. 49 times.
That's
And I feel
mind-boggling.
embarrassed. And this is the reality, and this is the big problem of bringing peace in the Middle East and even around the world. So coming back to your question about the General Assembly, in General Assembly, another requirement to become a member state is to have at least two-thirds votes. Now, the Palestine has way more than two-thirds votes, 146 countries out
More
of
than that.
149, out of 193 have already voted for Palestine. But since Security Council did not approve it, the only thing they could do was just to give moral support to Palestine. And I think if we look at the moral support, General Assembly did the right thing.
It's
But there is-
overwhelming, but there is no
Yes.
writ of the General Assembly. That's the thing.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, yeah. So is it a correct observation if I say that Netanyahu seems to be somehow the blue-eyed leader of Israel and US somehow wants him to stay? I say this because the protesters have been talking about different things, and I'm quoting it from the people who have been talking to me from Israel. They say that they accuse Netanyahu of very controversial judicial reforms. So they consider he is a threat to democracy in Israel, domestically speaking. Also, they say that he failed to defend the people of Israel on October 7. So it is his moral responsibility to resign. The next election is in 2026, and it seems, while his posturing signals that he's not going anywhere, definitely he's getting support from somewhere. Is this the correct observation?
It's a true observation, very right. He's getting all the support from America. But let me also add into it. I don't want to mention very specific observation in my prediction, but let me tell you, Netanyahu may be removed by force, by power, by people of Israel who love their peace, who love their loved ones.
Who want their family members back, who are hostages at the moment.
And I can also add that all this was a pre-planned by Netanyahu and his supporters and his cabinet. This is not the real generic action by Hamas or Palestinians. This was planned. This was planned. And he will be removed soon. This is not going to be very
six hostages have been found dead, and it doesn't move him.
Absolutely. He does not care about the hostages. He does not even talk about the hostages now. He talks about the controlling and, just like you said, evacuation. That's the problem. And that's the reality. But people of Israel very quickly and very in a sharp way, they are realizing his plans, and he is going to face a very serious threat from his own people. I don't want to go into specifics because
all right,
that
fair
may
enough.
create some.
Fair enough. My very last question to you, and I would actually want a very elaborate response on it. While I was talking to people, I was doing my research on what's happening inside Israel. I asked them a very specific question that whatever the protesters are demanding, is it purely in the interest of the Israel, the domestic issues, the judicial reforms which are controversial, the corruption, the personal corruption of Netanyahu, the families who are interested in getting their loved ones released, who are hostages at the moment, or there is a segment of society that is also bothered by the human atrocities happening in Palestine. And to my surprise, unfortunately, they said no. They don't care about what's happening over there. At the moment, they are very intricately close community, which only cares about its own ethos. Is this true?
I dare to disagree with this observation, Zunaira. I believe that people have started. It started with their own safety concerns, of course.
Right.
There is no doubt. Every human being have the right to feel safe in their own homes, in their own cities, in their own countries, and Israel is no exception. They also deserve peace and prosperity. It started.
But since 48 years, sorry for interrupting, since 48 years or 50 years or so, they have only become more insecure as a nation.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. But now people, more and more people in the leadership, in the general public, have started realizing that enough is enough, because they see innocent children, they see the women and pregnant women, the kids, the older people, the religious people, they are being killed. The uh, the United Nations people, the teachers, the doctors, the nurses, people have started feeling the pain. And I receive the calls. I deal with them on, just like you said, like you, on daily basis. And people have started feeling the pain of what's going on with other people.
Well, there
More
must be a
humanity.
segment of society that feels that with all the actions of Netanyahu, Israel is becoming more and more insecure, and the perception, the very perception of the country is becoming really bad globally. So I believe you're right. There has to be a group of people, or more than that, who are actually very concerned about the way people are being treated in Palestine. I look forward to talk to you in future as well. Mr. Nadeem, thank you so much for your precious time and your candidness on the situation. Thank you so much for joining us. And this wraps up this week's Epicenter. I will see you next week.